And welcome once again to the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio Paradise, and here is a bloke just back from a clandestine trip to South Australia. It's Titus O'Reilly.
I've just flew in last night.
Right.
Boy, are my arms tired.
Yeah.
That's about as good as we do. No, it's good. I went over to the Collingwood Port game. I spoke at the president's function before the game.
The Port Adelaide crowd.
Port Adelaide function, yeah. So nice. It was good fun.
You're hanging out with Kochi.
Yeah, hanging out with Kochi and all those people. And it was good because I hadn't been to Adelaide Oval since the redevelopment.
I haven't either.
And
I've heard good things, though.
Well, all you hear is, like, one, how loud it is and how amazing it is. And so I went and, always sceptical.
Yeah.
But it is amazing.
Did they play in excess before the game?
Yeah. That was great. But the actual and that really works. And it was a fairly pretty full stadium. So that works. But the actual ground itself, in terms of both the way it looks and operates, it is genuinely stunning. Like, it leaves the MCG for dust, I think.
Is that right?
Well, the MCG is great because it's got that Coliseum feel and it's so big. But in terms of the actual quality of the stands, and I mean, they're a lot newer, but the way it's all been done, it's just...
Yeah, I had a mate recently say to me, look, I know you bag Adelaide all the time, but get along to the Oval, it's as good as they say.
Oh, it is. So, it's. I was blown away by that, and then...
Do they do guided tours of the Adelaide Oval? Or?
Yeah.
Do they?
You can go up on the roof.
That's right. You can
but if it's you, I'd be worried you get pushed off.
Yeah, I was about to say that somehow my safety harness might, just conveniently snap, I
was very relieved going in without you there. I did feel a lot safer.
What, was that at Adelaide Airport or
everywhere?
Everywhere, okay.
Because I had the hat on and everything, and I'm thinking,
I'm going to get picked up here.
But luckily people were very nice to me over there.
Oh, that's good.
So that was, but it was good fun. We did I just got up and gave a bit of a speech before the game, and then got to watch a bit of the game, and it wasn't a great game. But
at least the home team won, so they would have all been happy.
And I was watching before I had to speak. I watched the whole Melbourne game on my phone.
Ah, nice. Nice
and
work.
So I did manage to watch all of that. But as I was watching it, there was a bit earlier where before I got up to speak. And there's a bit of a break before I got up to speak after, and David Koch got up to his president's address, right? And so I'm watching Mel and on my phone, but I'm also listening to what he's saying, and he's giving this speech about the importance of optimism, not necessarily just about footy, but just in life, right? And that was fine. But as he's giving this speech about optimism, I'm watching Melbourne give up a 35-point lead.
Oh no!
Thinking, I'm trying to be optimistic here, but.
I was at a junior footy game yesterday, and halfway through the game actually started about the same time as the Melbourne one.
Yeah.
So just as the halftime siren went in our junior footy game, one of the dads grabs me and goes, "Hey, Melbourne are 40 points in front." I've gone, "Oh, you beauty!"
Terrifying.
And then halfway through the last quarter, he says, "Oh, it's back to 4 points." And I've gone, "Oh no, here we go, here we go." But they did the right thing by us.
We should thank up front our supporters. Thank you for everyone who's become a supporter. If you'd like to become a supporter, you can go to titusoreilly.com and join up, and for an annual or a monthly small amount, you can help us out immensely to do the podcast and everything else we're doing. The tour is on sale, as we've mentioned, our Insufficient Intent tour. If you go to Frontier Touring, there's a Titus O'Reilly section there and a page for the whole tour. We're doing Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Canberra. So get on board. We've still got some tickets left. It's getting into the last sort of 2 and a bit weeks till we do the actual gig. Away. So
might have to give it some thought what we're actually going to do. Yeah.
So get on board, and if you haven't got a ticket yet, you'd want to get one soon. Some of those are getting close to selling out. So it should be good fun. Now, we should just mention just before we came on air.
Yeah, just it's a bit of sad news this morning that revealed that sort of legendary, former umpire and then TV and radio broadcaster Harry Beitzel passed away. Overnight, and which is sad. I sort of remember Harry when I was a kid. He was always on the radio, and I mean, I think he umpired some grand finals in the 1950s and stuff. So he went back a fair way.
I think he umpired John Coleman's first game. I read on something this morning.
But yeah, and then he was he pioneered international rules footy.
Yeah, so he
put
not
together
all upside.
the first. He had his
Everyone has their positive and negative legacies.
But I do remember him on the radio, and he had a great. He called VFA footy too on the radio, and he had like a double act with a really old bloke called Tommy Layeff, who was like a Port Melbourne legend. And this was back in the days. I think they were one of the first ones to cross to the rooms immediately after the game.
Right.
And back then, obviously, the technology isn't what it is today, and it became a running joke that they could never quite get the link going, and you'd hear Harry going, "Tommy, are you there, Tommy? Tommy Layeff, Tommy," and then after an inexorable length of time, little Tommy go, "Can you hear me, Harry?" "Yeah, I can hear you, Tommy. Can you hear me, Harry?" And this would go back and forth until finally go, just put somebody on the line. "I've got Alex Jezelenko. I'll shut up, Harry, and put him on." And it became just a running thing. And so that's about my great memories of Harry Beitzel. Also that he went to jail too.
Yeah, he went to jail.
He went to the big house. So he had a colourful career.
Yeah, obtaining property by deception was the charge.
I think it's when he worked for soccer pools.
Right.
You don't hear much about the pools
Oh, it's always the soccer.
Yeah. He didn't go to jail. He didn't let off a flare.
Yeah, that's right. It's always the soccer hooligans that bring everyone down.
So yeah, he was a pioneer broadcaster for footy and sport.
He's the first to use stats.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah,
so you can blame him for that too.
Yeah,
Bad an international rule.
See, if it wasn't for Harry Beitzel, there'd be no champion data, which would probably not be bad thing.
the lab.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hold him fully responsible for that.
The other thing is, I haven't actually seen you since the footy show wars kicked off in earnest
last
again.
Thursday night.
Did you watch the new footy show?
I watched the entire
new or the old. I don't know what we're calling it.
Well, yeah, it was a bit of a throwback, but it was all pretty new. It was better than it has been, as you'd expect, and as Channel 9 would want. But I didn't think it was anything completely startling, I've got to say.
No, I thought the first opening segment. Not the Braveheart thing and all that and whatever, but they did the opening bit where they all were at the desk and chatting for the first time. That was massively forced and awkward.
It was.
And Hughesy kept dropping in jokes, and
I'll tell you what,
he was not. Nah. His rhythm was off or something his
rhythm was off all night. I mean, we all love Hughesy, and he's a ripping bloke.
I just don't think he works in that
I just think he's wrong for that show.
Yeah,
he has been from day one.
Yeah.
I think in his defence, and I have no idea whether this is true, I'm just supposing, but I reckon he might be feeling a bit of the breath of Trevor Marmalade.
Well, they kept talking about Eddie's already said he'd love to have Trevor back.
Yeah, so if you were Hughesy, you'd have to say, well, they're not going to have both of us, are they?
What I found most interesting about it, I thought it was much better. I mean, it went on forever, and it was better, but it was much better produced. They actually did some footy talk.
Yeah,
so it actually was a bit more,
And they were lucky in that they had young Andrew McGrath on from Essendon.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily that funny. Like, not funny, him, but just the show.
He was good.
He was good. Max Gawn's good value.
Max always good value,
but it wasn't startlingly funny. Like if you want laughs, the front bar is
way funnier. And the ratings sort of reflected what everyone would expect in its first show back.
Yeah.
It got 380,000 viewers in Melbourne, which is a lot more than it's been getting. And the front bar was down to about a bit under half of that. What, of course, and this is stating the obvious a bit, but what will be interesting is in 2 or 3 weeks' time,
they can
leading into the finals, whether the footy show's numbers will come down a bit and front bar will go up, you would assume.
Yeah.
But, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I reckon
Sam Newman was amazingly restrained.
Yeah.
Supposedly being let off the leash.
Yeah.
He actually was more... He almost got through it without being, offensive.
Yeah. Let off... The only thing off the leash about Sam these days is his face, I reckon.
Oh, it was funny when they were flashing back to old footage of him.
He just looks like a good, normal, reasonably good-looking, fairly well-intact middle-aged man 20 years ago. Now he looks like, Jocelyn Wildenstein, the Catwoman.
He looks constantly surprised.
He couldn't shut his eyes with clothes pegs. But yeah, he was surprisingly restrained, I think. Look, I think it'll hit its straps in 2 or 3 weeks.
For good or bad.
Yeah, well, you'd hope so. You think. I mean, I think there's still room for the footy show, and especially if the rumours are true that Eddie's going to try and turn it into a bit of a Tonight Show, more of a talk fest with live bands, and if there's this is something they were always good at in the past on the footy show. If there was a big name movie star in town or a band, they'd get them involved. I mean, every time Kiss came to Australia, they'd end up doing footy show.
On their 50th farewell tour.
Farewell tour, yeah. So we remain to see what happens there.
Sally Pearson won...
She's had a good weekend.
Yeah, her second world 100 metres hurdles title on the weekend. It was a huge victory for her.
And she did it pretty convincingly too.
Yeah, she was great, and she looked like almost she was like in shock when she won, because it's such a... If you don't know, in 2015, she broke her wrist in a race fall in Rome. Now, hurdles tends to look like a good way to break your wrist.
Yeah, but I remember when she did it and they were saying, she could be out for a year. I'm thinking, really? With a broken wrist? I mean, if she'd broken her ankle, sure, but I wasn't convinced about the wrist, but apparently she just snapped it in about 18 places.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So, and then she had soft tissue problems, and I think a lot of people thought, Sally, could be lay down Sally.
Well, then she had an Achilles and hamstring. Yeah. So, serious stuff. That made her miss the Rio Olympics. And then took for her to decide. Now, the thing that was interesting too about this is they're coming back to win, which is an amazing... They come back from all that at 30 years old and win the gold at the world titles is amazing. She also coached herself.
Yeah, well,
decided to get... Now, apparently coaches get medals at these games.
At the World Championships,
yeah, so they get medals as well as the athletes. Well, she should get 2.
Yeah, she should. She should.
I think everyone should just coach themselves. Get rid of coaches.
I tell you what, there'll be some nervous athletics coaches getting around because, athletics, it's like we said last week, about sports administrators getting a bit ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
And athletics is a prime example of that. They reckon there's, 80 layers of middle management before you get to an athlete.
Right.
So there'd be a few nervous coaches. If Sally Pearson can win a world championship
without one,
maybe the swimmers should try that.
They just need to get off the still knocks.
Because they didn't do much good, and they've got more coaches than the AFL.
They had Kitty Chiller breathing down their neck. No. That went well.
No Mike Tancred, no swimmers, that's what I
say. Toby Greene, did you see this incident on the weekend?
Oh, it would be hard to have missed it.
It wasn't a mark. It was a handball.
Receive,
it was lobbed up in the air, and he jumped up to get it.
It was a hospital hand pass almost.
Yeah, and he stuck his foot out, and depending on your point of view, either he stuck his foot out in an attempt to kick Luke Dalhouse in the face.
Yeah, it was Luke Dalhouse.
Or to protect himself, and just it was a reaction of you stick your foot out. And then
there's been a fair bit of hysteria about it.
Well, my upset is I had Toby Greene doing something stupid in the second quarter in the office pool.
Oh, did you?
So I was a bit upset that happened in the third. I mean, Toby just has a knack of both getting into these incidents, then, as always, he then kicks a goal about 2 minutes later, a crucial goal. So
the thing about Toby Greene, I love him as a footballer. I reckon he's just a genuinely talented natural footballer.
Well, I think
he's not an athlete. I don't even think he has a basketball background.
What?
No, he's just a great footballer.
Lacrosse got anything? Just a footballing background.
Just a footballer, I think.
Oh, how
and
boring.
A very good one. But he does have a way of finding trouble, and this was a new one. I'd like to think that it was just a quick defensive movement, and he didn't intend to kick Luke Dalhouse in the face. Yeah. Although, if Luke Dalhouse still had the dreadlocks, he would have been excused immediately. But, the way I look at it, if you can't kick a bloke in the face while receiving a handball, then the nanny state has won.
Oh, that's right. It's another tradition gone the way of the sling tackle, the
bounce.
The jumper punch, the not being allowed to sleep with your staff.
Yeah.
All these great traditions just going out the window.
They've emasculated the game.
In my day, Serge, getting kicked in the face was all part of the fun.
It was a badge of honour.
especially by an AFL player.
Yeah.
We used to dream of being kicked in the face.
Does anyone remember Raiden Tallis? Not for his football. The fact that Dermot Brereton stomped on his head. He's not rememred for anything else.
No, and he was
Played
thrilled
about
with
8
that
games.
too. But Toby that's the thing. Toby, if it was anyone else, you'd go like, oh, but because it's Toby Greene, you kind of go, he probably did meant to kick
He
him.
probably did. But I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. But
I think, everyone always talks about benefit of the doubt. But some people, I think, manoeuvre themselves into a position where they get the reverse of the benefit of the doubt.
yeah, Toby
They
certainly
get the benefit
one
of
them.
conviction
And
before they
that's
even, they're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, I did like the fact that his teammates coming out calling it trial by media, or already this is about 15 minutes after the game.
Yeah.
But we're recording this before the match review panel comes
We
out,
are. So it could not even be
we
judged.
don't know what's happened yet.
But the bit I loved about it so much, though, in real time, as it had happened, in the instant aftermath, the person on Channel 7 that did the most talking and saying that there was nothing in it was Wayne Carey.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, there's one bloke that knows about someone getting hit in the face.
Exactly. Or at least,
It's Wayne Carey.
You don't expect, Toby Greene to grab the drink bottle and glass someone, do they?
I just love how Wayne gets still slots in there. Now, one of the things you and I got a lot of people contact us about is there was a photo doing the rounds on the social medias
yesterday
of a Melbourne supporter at the footy who had it on his lap.
Yeah, there were two of them, two blokes.
And they had a cheese platter,
Yeah.
it was a couple of boards of it, and it had olives, it had a bit of prosciutto, it had some Dauphinoise cheese, it had everything.
It was antipasto.
It was a full cheese plate, farmer's plate, as they do at a cafe, just presented at the footy. And everyone said, this is peak Melbourne, typical Melbourne. And I thought, well, what barbarians? What else are you going to have at the footy?
Exactly. Well, I thought, what a slur on Melbourne supporters. Some of that cheese, if you look closely at that photo, some of that cheese wasn't imported. I may be a bit of a King Island Brie kind of guy, but I think it was unfair. But did you see the bloke sitting next to him?
Yeah.
He had the hat on, not dissimilar to the Titus O'Reilly signature
that's right.
model, available now from
all good hat shops.
All good hat shops. But he also had the tweed jacket with the leather patches on the elbow, which I thought, it's terrific. That's got a touch of the MCC.
It was terrific, but you get a Dauphinoise cheese with your membership. People don't get that, that's sort of the thing. I often smuggle in a bit of Grange in my hip flask.
Of course you do. We've all done that. But what the photos that don't get printed, you see, your St Kilda supporters were there. They just had the cubes of coon on the Jats crackers.
That's right.
The bogan kind of cheese
at
platter.
Collingwood, cheese plate is just a packet of Kraft singles.
Yeah.
There you go. The Hawthorn is a list snack.
A Le Snack?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be big on the Le Snack.
Because it sort of appears classy, but...
We might give this a bit of a thought for next week, or get our listeners to suggest what would be
the snack
you take for every club that you take to the game.
It did look a lot of... see, they don't... If you got a Melbourne scarf on, security don't check you.
No, of course they don't.
No, you'll be fine.
And the great thing is, he must have brought all these ingredients separately.
Yeah, and got them already, yeah.
But he's also brought the platter with him.
Yeah, he had everything.
Magnificent. He had the whole shebang. Look, people are bagging him, I reckon.
Plus,
sensational.
That would have been cheaper than buying one pie at the footy.
Exactly. He's got prosciutto, as you said. He's got olives, some artichoke hearts, bit of eggplant in vinegar. He had the whole shebang, all for less than a hot dog.
But anyway, a lot of people asked if that was us, and it wasn't.
It wasn't. Titus was in Adelaide.
I was in Adelaide,
and I was at a junior footy game.
But they didn't have a cheese platter there over in Port.
No. What would Port supporters take to the?
The Port. We were just drinking Woodstock bourbon.
Yeah. Premixed.
Some premix. Mixing that up, pairing our premix to us. What pairs best with a pie? I said. So anyway, Freo. Did you watch the Freo Sydney game?
No, I must admit I didn't see too many games of footy this weekend.
You say that every week.
Yeah, that's true. But I did check my phone at one point. And saw
there we go.
It was 84-9. I thought, yeah, probably no need to switch this on. I think this game might be done.
Fremantle was so bad.
They must have been appalling.
The scoreline, I think it was like 143 to 39 or something.
Yeah, it was over 100
was
points.
roughly the score. Yeah. And Freo, the fact Freo made it to 39 points is it flatters their performance. They were so bad. If they didn't have Nat Fyfe playing for them, who was the only player that had any influence from their side, they were just letting Sydney just walk the ball through the centre corridor.
Yeah.
It was appalling.
Has Ross Lyon lost the players?
Well, I don't know
must
what's
be something going on.
What's he got another 5-year extension? So he's there till like 2019, 2020.
You can get belted in certain games by a really good side who just have it on a string that day.
Yeah.
But what most coaches, and certainly at AFL level, boards and CEOs won't accept, is a lack of effort from the players. It just seemed they just couldn't be bothered.
They couldn't care less. The season end couldn't come fast enough was the message. They might as well not rock up to the last two.
Yeah, they're all just...
They're
all booked their spots at Margaret River and Bali, and they just want to get there.
Well, they were appalled, and you do wonder what's going on there. I mean, whether they just... I mean, you can sometimes just have a terrible day that no one switched on, and that's what happens.
But they've had 2 shocking years in a row now. They're in the grand final 3 years ago.
Yeah. They're slightly... they've obviously improved on last year, but, you know...
And West Coast are no good either.
They were lucky to get up.
Yeah.
Carlton just can't score.
No.
That's Carlton's problem.
Yeah, Carlton need a couple of forwards. Of course, they reckon big Levi Casbolt, he's on the move at the end of the year.
But that's not going to be a big difference. Levi Casbolt's not...
I know, but knowing Carlton, Levi will go somewhere else and kick 80 goals next year. You know,
your 2018 Coleman medalist,
exactly.
Levi Casbolt.
Yeah, no question.
Playing for St Kilda or something.
Yeah, you know, just like as we've said before, Carlton, you know, Eddie Betts, even the Geelong.
Well, Josh Kennedy kicked 6 goals against them on the weekend, and he's
precisely Jeff Garlett.
Yeah.
I saw Henderson for Geelong. He just about won them the game the other night. He took about 4 sort of intercept marks in the last quarter. Another Carlton player, Zach Tui, you know.
They've started to get better at realising that you hold on to your good players. Well, they didn't try, Gibbs go.
Yeah, but what they're holding on to is a whole bunch of GWS rejects.
Yeah.
You'd have to hope some of them come good.
If you're a Carlton fan, start watching the Giants NEAFL side and get a sense of who's going to be playing.
There's next year's midfield running around.
As I call it Carlton's Academy. We should mention Rodney Eade was sacked.
Yeah, he got flung pretty unceremoniously. Sorry, but the thing I did like about this, not the fact that he got sacked, it was like a classic workplace sacking in that often when coaches get sacked, they still hang around and they talk to the players and they do media for the rest of the week. And there's a bit of a chain and they say the nice things and the right things. And there's a subtle handover to the interim coach. But this one was like, pack your desk and get out today.
Well, I hear it wasn't like...
But I think that may have been Rodney's call.
Rodney said, I would like to say goodbye to the players, but he got given an opportunity, I got told, to do that, and he just didn't.
No, he was over the whole thing.
He was over the whole thing. And then I think when he came out and said, if I'd known what I knew, if I knew what I know now, then when I got appointed, I wouldn't have gone. And I thought, oh, come on, mate, you've had 3 years. I mean, they haven't shown any real improvement under him. He was never and
they're not the only club who've had an injury run.
He was Eade, to me, I've said it before, he's the answer to a question no one is asking.
Yeah.
He's just never been, he tears strips off players. I've spoken to quite a few players who played for him in the past. They all hate him. He's just known for that. And so setting him up with a bunch of young blokes on the Gold Coast.
I know when he was at Sydney, he was renowned for that.
Oh, there's not a lot of people who played for him that liked him.
Yeah. Having said that, I've met him through the media a few times.
Yeah.
And he's a ripping bloke. He's a good bloke.
Everyone's a good bloke.
So, He will come back into the system somewhere.
Of course he will, because no one ever goes out of the system.
I don't know who said it, but it was another. It was Grant Thomas or someone like that.
Oh, yeah, this will be good.
Yeah. No, he actually pointed out, he suggested that Rodney Eade is possibly the best, other than Neil Baum, your best football manager going around in Australia, but he shouldn't be a senior coach. And he said there's two different
Who said
types.
that?
I think Grant Thomas is.
Oh, so he's obviously not then. Grant.
Oh, Tomo.
God, Grant's never... He's always so angry.
Yeah.
Like everything... Like I consider myself a cynic.
Yes.
But there's being a cynic and, of kind of looking at life a bit and being... Or more a skeptic. But he's not even... He's
sarcastic.
He's just... Everything is a conspiracy.
Yeah. He's
like
an angry man.
An evil empire that everything... He gives them so much power, like the idea that they're so calculating. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not naive that they don't try and... Yeah. But they're not as good at it as he pretends they are.
I don't think...
He acts like they covered up the JFK assassination.
That was Rodney Eade.
That was Rodney Eade on the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
But Eade, look, who knows? I mean, he did a great job at Collingwood.
Where will he pop up next?
Who knows?
Oh, he would have got paid a bomb too. I mean, what? These blokes...
Well, I think his contract was finishing up anyway this year.
Yeah, well, why don't just
go
and sit on the beach for a while. He was on the Gold Coast, that's what Rocket Eade should do. Move to Byron Bay and just open a
hippie cafe.
A hippie cafe.
Yeah, I can see him doing that.
Sandals kind of job.
Berating this clientele.
And his little bit of hair he's got left on the back, just grow it down all for miles.
But Eade was never the answer even I already said at the time this is a crazy appointment, and I was not alone in that. Like lots of people did. This isn't like with hindsight.
Yeah.
That board has been shocking from day one.
Yeah, I think the whole of the Gold Coast needs a rocket, so to speak, but
not that rocket.
That rocket, yeah.
Like one from North Korea?
Yeah. To wipe out the entire Gold Coast.
But the thing about... So there's a couple of things at play. One, the Gold Coast is the great mirage of sports.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
They look at it and think it's going to be... Like they look at the growth numbers and the amount of people there and they think, well, this should kill it. But the problem they have is, one, the Gold Coast isn't like one place. It's different disparate bits.
Yeah,
because people go there and they live
a coast. It's not just a single
there's
suburb.
The hinterland and there's all different bits and people go up there for the outdoors lifestyle and stuff like that and for different reasons, so it's not
most people have come from elsewhere and falling in love and following a footy team or any professional sports team has been proven.
Yeah.
It's just not the answer.
But the thing that they fall for on this, the AFL, is they look at it and they go completely off what they see as potential. So, and they do simple numbers. So they look at the massive population and its growth. But it's a bit like looking at, so say Tasmania, which already plays football and they're interested, but it's got limited growth and it's small, right?
It's small.
Imagine there's someone who loves going to the gym but can only go twice a week because they're busy the rest of the time.
Right.
That's Tasmania. That's Tasmania, right?
Yeah.
Then you look at me who doesn't go to the gym at all.
Right.
But is lazy, has enough time that I could go 7 days a week, right? I could go 7 days a week. The AFL look at me. The AFL look at me and go, that guy could go 7 days a week. I mean, he's going 0 now and has shown no interest his entire life in going to the gym. But
let's give him a gym membership.
He could go 7 days a week. Meanwhile, the guy that goes 2 days a week and loves it but just can't go any more than they can, they're like, we're not interested in you. There's no upside in you. But they don't know that I hate the gym. And the Gold Coast people hate going to sport. They got other things to do. There's the beach and there's all
every second.
There's sailing and
boat
it's beautiful outside. Like no one's going to the footy.
No. And
then the team's rubbish on top of that.
Look, I know I got quite a few friends who live up there and like expat Victorians.
Yeah.
And they still love their footy. But I said, take an interest in the Suns, or do you go? And they go, we take a vague interest in the Suns. They said, but most weekends, if we want to watch footy, we go to the surf club and watch the main game on the big screens. That's what they do.
They go swimming a bit. And
Geelong and Richmond having a few pots at the surf club, but to actually go to the games to see the Suns, nah, can't be bothered.
Yeah.
And I reckon that's fairly indicative of the whole joint.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the players are like that too.
Yeah, that's what the players do. They'd rather be watching the goal.
Well, they lost to Brisbane on the weekend, and Brisbane scored like 140 points.
Well, that was the one game I did watch a lot of.
Out of all the games
I picked the blockbuster.
Yeah.
And Gold Coast, their first quarter.
Sergio's match of the round.
They were actually pretty good, their first quarter.
Yeah, and then
Jack
Brisbane
Martin
started
and
trying.
Stephen May were looking real good. And then Brisbane went up a notch.
Well, yeah.
And they actually looked reasonable.
Oh, the Sun surrendered.
They were awful after that. And this goes against your traditional, when you sack the coach, the interim comes in and generally wins that first game.
Yeah, they were terrible. Do you think Terry Wallace has a chance?
The list manager, he'll put his hand up.
Following Rodney Eade with Terry Wallace would be the...
a couple of, former Hawthorn premiership players. He'll put his hand up, Terry, don't you? He'd be working the phones now.
Oh, he's never put his hand down.
No, I reckon if you check Gillon McLaughlin's phone now, there'd be 23 missed calls from Terry Wallace.
Do you think he's put it in Gill's phone as the list manager?
Or if he's smart, he'd put it in as unknown in the hope that Gillon might actually answer it.
One of the other stories that came up was slightly strange, is about Ross Lyon potentially going to Collingwood.
Yeah.
Now, what was interesting about this is it got reported by Brad Hardy on Perth Radio.
Yeah. Brad Hardy, the 1985, perhaps.
Brownlow medalist. But also, he regularly has scoops on Perth Radio.
Yeah. The fattest bloke ever to win a Brownlow medal.
That's kind of stuff. He also, but he's come out and said a few things though, but Perth Radio's out doing itself on predictions.
Yeah, what was their last big one?
Oh, and that 5 to St Kilda was a dead set certainty.
Yeah, that was an absolute...
Which was the minute I knew he was re-signing.
Signed, sealed and delivered that deal, apparently. Yeah.
I knew instantly. I was like, oh, he's obviously...
Every time you hear Carl Langdon on 6PR, you think, oh, this is going to be complete bullshit. There is no... absolutely... So Brad Hardy, and he's copped a dead set whack over this.
Both from Eddie Maguire and Buckley. And
Ross Lyon.
He came out and said that Ross Lyon has expressed interest in coaching the Magpies next season.
And I think he said he'd contacted Collingwood to let them know that.
Yeah, he says he was saying that that he contacted them on the sly and let them know, which. It's almost believable with Ross Lyon that would happen.
He does have a bit of form in that regard, you'd have to say.
So I was kind of like, oh, maybe that could be true.
Grant Thomas thinks.
He's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's the AFL trying to...
So you wonder, the fact that they've... Now, quite often in the AFL circles, when 3 or more people deny something vehemently, it's true and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But this time, I reckon old young Brad, he's missed the boat. But you wonder where he got the story from. Somebody's obviously told him.
Yeah, but
I
how
have a
many
mate
stories
who sat
do
next
we
to a
hear?
bloke on the tram whose mate used to be the runner at Collingwood.
The amount of how many times do you get told a story and you just go? Sometimes I know as soon as I'm being told, I'm like, I just know this isn't true. Yeah. But people tell you insistent that it's true.
Yeah. It's always It's always a mate of mine's mate.
Yeah.
Works at St Kilda.
Yeah.
Or his sister is the receptionist at West Coast or something, and therefore it's true. I wonder where old Hardy got this one from.
Whenever I get given one of those stories that are completely not true, I jump on the phone to Brad Hardy and go, Brad, might have a story for you, mate.
What can we come up with?
Yeah, we should just start feeding rubbish to Perth Radio. So anyway, Eddie came out and slammed it. Now they came out and actually said that it's completely made up. And Nathan Buckley actually questioned whether Brad Hardy should have his media accreditation,
his AFL accreditation
revoked. God, it's going to be a dangerous thing if they start holding journalists to account.
Well, imagine if Brad Hardy gets his media accreditation revoked. They'll have to keep his lanyard next to Joe Watson's Brownlow in Gill's office drawer.
Yeah, the secret drawer. Do you think he's actually... do you think the Brownlow's really in Gillen's drawer? Because it was kind of funny because there was that thing about, when's he going to hand back the Brownlow?
And nobody wanted to answer that.
And so it was radio silence for ages. Yeah. And then suddenly one day Gillen goes, "Oh, no, it's okay, I've got it."
Yeah, he's done it. Yeah.
Oh, and it was like, "Where is it?" "Oh, it's in my drawer. Can we see it?" Nope,
no. Well, I think...
It's okay on, mate.
When he retired just last week, I think Job said he gave it to his grandparents.
But then he said that wasn't a real one. Which I'm like, well, who...
Where do you get a replica Brownlow from? Brad Hardy's from.
Brad Hardy's got a drawer of them. Yeah, we haven't spoken about Job leaving, have we?
No, I think there was a couple of them that all... and Stevie J... After we did the show last week... Stevie
J announced he's going.
He's going.
Job's going.
It's going to be a pretty
Worst of all, one of the things I'm glad I'll be able to say to my grandkids is saw Jesse White play because he's finishing up. So, that's going to be a shame.
Oh, other than Jesse White, it's going to be a pretty good motorcade around the...
Oh, yeah. It's all...
You got those guys, Matt Pritters, Brownlow Meadows, Luke Hodge,
Mitchell.
Sam Mitchell. And, there'll no doubt be a few duds as well.
Rewalt?
Yeah, Nick Rewalt. Geez, there's some superstars this year.
There's a fair team there.
Yeah.
So, and who else? There was, Boyd from Bulldogs?
Yeah, no. And there's some talk that maybe Bob Murphy might hang them up.
Right.
So
it's a who's who of footy get well going.
But there will be, when you watch grand final on the tally, when they show the motorcade, there will inevitably be one car where you don't know either of them. They're the blokes who are going to get delisted anyway. Yeah, They're just their last hurrah. Well,
the thing I found interesting is there's a bit of news like the Essendon saga sort of, you think the heat's gone out of it now, but then things happen and it's like, that simmering anger on both sides of the argument.
Doesn't take long for it to come to the surface again.
Heard accept the that he's going to present the Norm Smith.
Yes.
He accepted that, so we knew he'd been offered, but he actually has accepted that, and that got a bit of anger, and which I do think is, I get it follows precedent, but I mean, you either fall in the camp where you think these guys did something wrong or not, and then I think you kind of also fall into a bit of a camp if you're either in the they're completely innocent and was all a witch hunt, or you're in the or you believe that they're
all dirty drug cheats.
Well, I think if you fall into the I think they did something, then you fall into either they're complete drug cheats that set out to cheat, or you fall into the bit like, look, I don't think they're completely innocent, but I don't think they didn't. They were a bit misled and they were stupid, and they should have probably they should have suspected and they should have done more. But
I've always been a bit on that side of it.
Well, I think it depends too on the individual players. I'm sure some players probably knew more than others.
Management at Essendon.
I don't think they're completely innocent. I think there's too many but what I thought was interesting when Joe Watson announced his retirement is he was either the media canonise him. To me, this is the thing that's always been I have no hatred for Joe Watson, and I don't think he's Lance Armstrong, because Lance Armstrong was also, as well as being a drug cheat, he was a horrible bully who set out to destroy people's careers and lives. Anyone that accused him, he was... Now, Job has, from all intents and purposes, from everyone I've spoken to, is a nice person.
He did cost a New York barista his job.
Yeah, that's right. But hasn't done any of that sort of stuff. So you can't lump him in like that. And even if you believe the scale of what they've been accused of, it's not great, but it doesn't put them at the they're not the worst,
but they're not him on the pedestal
But that's what I never get. It's the
how many people said last week he held the club together?
Well, I mean,
during the dark days.
I understand that all might be true, but to me, it's just this thing of he's just you come through it as you just people seem to only be able to put him in the. And the AFL to me have never really confronted the community. And I think a lot of the fans have that you don't hear from because there's silent kind of out there but I confront that this could have happened in our game. They don't want to even acknowledge.
No. Well, that's where I mean, a lot of Essendon supporters,
So they
rightly or wrongly, I mean, it's so black and white. They hate the AFL. They're out to get Essendon, and then others like, all Essendon are dirty, rotten drug cheats. But as you say, it takes very little for the whole, bitterness and hatred to surface again. It just happened last week when old Job retired and Hurdy.
So I can't see the Herd thing going well.
No, and this is where the AFL, I mean, yeah, as you said, I understand that there's the precedent that...
but did you even know about the precedent?
No, until they said, oh, no, because Shannon Grant did it last year. He won it in 1999, so Hurdy won it in 2000, so he should do it this year. Nobody knew that. And, well, I'm sure some people did, but it wasn't widespread knowledge. Yeah. And the thing, and it's, that old stupid cliche, is it too soon? Well, I think it is too soon if Gillon McLachlan, he can't get Hurdy to present the Norm Smith on one hand and on the other say, but it will be an absolute disgrace if the crowd boos him. You can't have it both ways.
Oh, well, I saw Robbo said if you boo James Hurdy, you're a coward. And I'm I mean, really, it's a bit more complex than that. I mean,
half the people at the grand final don't know anything about football and wouldn't even know anything about the Essendon saga or the corporates. Yeah.
It's not one that they really have covered themselves in glory, the handling of it the whole way through. But I just, to me, it's a bit more complex than, with Job and all that is, they're the greatest person that ever lived, which is how the media covered it. Yeah. And you're like, you kind of have to acknowledge that there is a bit in there that's a bit... Yeah. And there's a lot of questions that still never been answered and will probably never be answered.
And there are
and I know no one likes this, but there are question marks all over that.
Right.
There are. There's question marks of the players of... what were they injected with to this day, and will it have any negative effects? Even if you love the players and don't, wish them no ill will, and you still, even that, those people can't answer what was injected into the players. So you can't just then turn around and say, well, they're just completely like.
No, the only two completely innocent players are Michael Hibbert and Jake Melksham.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if they play for your team now, they're of course not guilty at all. The rugby ARU, or the Australian Rugby Union, and putting the Australian at the front is probably a bit overselling it now. Yeah. They announced finally that they've chosen the team they're going to cut from Super Rugby. This has been going on for ages, whether they were going to cut the Western Force in Perth or whether they were going to cut the Melbourne Rebels. They've finally come out and they announced, I think it was on Friday, might have been Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday last week.
They came out and said that we're going to get rid of the Force. The Force are gone, and they said it was mainly done on financial reasons, as in the club couldn't support itself. Almost immediate, and so that means basically the Melbourne Rebels are safe.
Well, they'll survive.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
Now, Rugby WA have gained.
Who even knew there was a Rugby WA?
They've gained an injunction order against the ARU's decision to axe the Force. Now, what that means is, this is an appeal to the New South Wales Supreme Court. That means the ARU can't sack or relocate any of the players until this is all sorted out.
And if they do, who buy?
Well, I think Andrew Forrest, the mining magnate, is dumping up a lot of the cash around this at the moment.
He's throwing his weight around.
And it's still a functioning business at the moment until it gets wound up. So, so that it's going to be very interesting because now, so basically, what my reading of this earlier, doing this stuff is, if the appeal, the Rugby WA appeal fails, that's it. The Force are gone. But if they win, it gets kind of interesting.
Oh, of course it does. Well, if nothing else, it means this whole sorry and stupid saga will continue on.
But the thing for rugby, right, is if they're not in WA, the Rebels, no one in Melbourne cares about the Rebels.
No.
They care more about the Storm. There's a bit of interest.
Yeah,
a good level of interest for the Storm.
Yeah.
But the Rebels, I couldn't name a player at the Rebels, and I like rugby union.
As I've said before, in Melbourne, people think the Rebels are the rivals to the Comancheros. What is a rugby team? No, and I've got some Pommy mates, some English expats who follow the Rebels, but they would be the only people I know who would even know they existed.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right. It's just not a thing in Melbourne that really.
And it never will be. Even like the Melbourne Storm, if you forget the Brian Waldron years, they've always been pretty successful down here, and they
were very successful in the Brian Waldron years.
Yeah, I know, and they look like they're going to be again. But they sort of embraced Melbourne because they knew they had to.
Yeah,
and Melbourne kind of embraced them back a bit. And
they've also been enormously successful,
which helps. But and that's my point. Even if the Rebels were to win the Super Rugby Premiership, people still wouldn't care in Melbourne.
Well, I think partly it's the way the AAU have treated Melbourne for years. Like, you get the worst Wallaby games. They'll send you Italy Wallabies or something at Etihad, and it's almost empty. And they didn't capitalise on the 2003 World Cup when everyone was actually interested in it.
Melbourne never gets to see that.
Barely ever, and they're also one-sided. So, I mean, it's really just shrinking back to Union being a two-state. Yeah. And Canberra's, obviously got the Brumbies. So it's really, but it's really just going back to its grassroots, and that's it. It's not a national sport anymore.
No, well, it's not, and and it's a bit like soccer has been imploding a bit at the moment with the Federation Australia fighting with the FIFA, as we mentioned last week.
Yeah, I think we can. I think that's going to be interesting. I think when we do Thursday's podcast, we should have a lot. That is a full. I was about to say,
I reckon by Thursday we'll know a lot more there.
It could be the ball gets rolled by then.
Yeah. So, but for these two, like rugby union's always been a minor sport nationally in the country. Soccer's always had grandiose plans for itself, and because it's the world game, the soccer, officials and aficionados have always said one day it'll be the national game. We will take over.
Sleeping giant.
But they continually seem to shoot themselves in the foot.
It's hard though. The reason soccer / football has struggled to take off in Australia is by the time it really came to the shores, by the time it was crystallised in England and then sort of came out here, the upper class had already been locked up by union. League and Aussie rules had really grabbed the working class and the Victorian rules, as it was called then, was classless.
Thing. Yeah.
It didn't have a class. It was all levels, and because of that, by the time football arrived, it was kind of didn't have anywhere to be because all the grounds were locked up. So and the infrastructure wasn't there, and so it always struggled from then. And then after the war, when it was a lot of, the Italians and the Greeks and the Croatians and a whole bunch of groups that came out of here after World War II came, it then got seen as as Johnny Warren described it, a wog sport.
Exactly. I remember when I was at school, it was called wog ball.
Which is kind of hilarious given it was invented in England.
Yeah.
So it was the most English of sports.
If they renamed it wog ball, I reckon it would take off again.
That would catch you. But the thing there, so it's it kind of missed its race a bit through timing. I often think it would be interesting if football had got here 50 years earlier, or 20 years earlier, before it got set. Aussie rules was set.
Before that went national.
It could we'd be in a very different world now, But now it's sort of seen as a foreign thing.
And all sports needs their superstars. And you don't get to see too many of them in the A-League. When Tim Cahill comes back, that's great.
But the A-League's a great standard. And if you go, I like the A-League, and it's a good level of sport, and I think it goes. I mean, they're hanging in there. They've got some issues, but they're not going. They're way better than they were 20 years ago.
The sport itself, the A-League, it'll have another terrific season, and there'll be big crowds, and it'll all go well. It's just the fighting at head office that they can't get right.
And it's always the dividing up the money.
Yeah, always.
Now, we didn't do questions this week because I was flying on a plane back last night when I usually do them, but I think we'll do questions for Thursday's podcast. Yeah. So if you're dying to ask us something, I'll do a call for that on Wednesday night and we'll get that happening.
And have a think about what would be the ideal snack to take to a game from every club. Melbourne supporters, we have
we got the cheese platter.
And as you said, Collingwood supporters have got the
craft singles.
The craft singles in the plastic wrap. What would be for every other club?
All right, well, we'll see you Thursday.